Hi, my name is Claire Mortensen, and I did my media analysis project on human trafficking. What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is the action of recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing, and obtaining a human by force, fraud, and coercion for the purpose of sexual or labor exploitations. This industry brings in $150 billion each year. Laws against human trafficking are fairly new, despite the fact that human trafficking is not at all a new crime. In the year 2000, Congress finally passed the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which officially made human trafficking a federal crime in the United States. The average age of someone being lured into the trafficking world is 13 years for girls and even younger for boys. From the time of abduction to the time of the victim's death, the average lifespan is 7 years. Here is a map that shows the hotspots around the United States of human trafficking. Targets of human trafficking usually have the following in common: needing somewhere to belong, living in poverty or homelessness, being from areas of instability or danger, or illegally in the United States. There are a lot of indicators of human trafficking that if we can pick up on, we can help bring many cases to light. Red flags to help identify the victims are if they are escorted by a controlling figure of authority, not speaking without being granted permission, not being able to control their schedule, reliant upon someone else for personal transportation, inability to leave their current job, and bruises, depression, fear, submission, and anxiety. Each trafficking case is unique in their own way. While many make the generalization that all victims want to escape their circumstances, it is not nearly as simple as it sounds. Fear, isolation, guilt, shame, misplaced loyalty, and expert manipulation all play a role in why the victim may make no effort to get out of the trafficking world that they're living in. While we often tend to generalize victims of human trafficking to be female, it is estimated that about 50% of targets in the trafficking world are male. LGBTQ boys are specifically considered to be targets because they're seen as more vulnerable to perpetrators. In addition to sex trafficking, labor trafficking is a serious issue as well. These industries that exploit humans for their labor can be legal or illegal, and they include sweatshops, massage businesses, agriculture, hotels, and domestic service. Sex trafficking is the most common type of trafficking and accounts for 59% of all trafficking. 1 in every 3 victims is exploited for manual labor, and 7% are estimated to be used for organ harvesting for profit. The business of human trafficking is constructed and supported by the suffering of individual humans. However, this business is so hard to fight because many legal businesses benefit from it. Human trafficking is commonly believed to be only an international problem by the media and the general population. It's often assumed that it only occurs in third world countries. And while human trafficking is a massive problem in countries like Pakistan, Thailand, China, India, and Bangladesh, the United States has a rapidly growing number of victims each year. It's estimated that an average of 19,000 new victims are trafficked into the United States each year. However, the total scale of human trafficking is unknown because so many cases go undiscovered and unreported. It's been estimated that internationally, about 0.04% of human trafficking survivors are identified. The United States has many cover-up businesses for human trafficking. These businesses usually include massage parlors or spas. Yes, the same ones that are typically seen on a drive to or home from work. But inside, they hold rooms, sometimes even called stables, where trafficking is conducted around the clock. These businesses provide a facade of acceptability because it is occurring inside a licensed system, and it gives acceptability to the concept of buying a living, breathing human being. Another common myth believed by the media is that only strangers are the traffickers and perpetrators to the victims. Traffickers can be family, peers, boyfriends, or girlfriends, organized criminals, and third-party recruiters. trafficking takes place in schools, homes, and even churches. Many victims are lured out of foster care, group homes, and shelters. The faces of pimps and traffickers are everyday people and often can be somebody that is already in your circle of trust. For example, coaches, teachers, doctors, and family members are the most common traffickers to somebody they know. When trust with this familiar face is already in place, the perpetrator does not need to kidnap the victim because they can convince the target to show up willingly. When this happens, the victim will usually feel emotions of guilt, self-blame, and shame when trying to leave their trafficker. So while we should continue to educate the younger generation to look out for white vans and stranger danger, we must also be on high alert towards those closest to us, as unfortunate as that is. When men and women are first trafficked, it is most likely because they have been specifically targeted by a scope of vulnerability, such as a dysfunctional family household, domestic and physical violence, or a lack of parental support and supervision. Pimps often make their victim feel important by asking the right questions, listening, and giving them attention that they are not used to receiving. This technique is called grooming, and it brainwashes the victim into believing that they are safe and being taken care of by the trafficker. They will often play the role of the boyfriend to win over the victim emotionally and manipulate them into thinking that they need that male figure in their life. The goal of traffickers is to exploit the vulnerabilities of their victims and prey upon their weaknesses, and go from there to lure them into the corrupt world of trafficking. It is a common misconception that to be trafficked, the victim must be relocated from their home to another house, city, or even country. And while this can be the case, victims can also be trafficked without ever being taken out of their own home. The terms human trafficking and human smuggling are often confused. However, they are two very different concepts. Human smuggling must involve illegal border crossings, while trafficking does not require any movement at all. This happens when the victim's family is the one acting as the recruiter. They will use their child or family member to win to their own financial benefit, and there are many ways for them to do this. The first is by residential sex trafficking, where call-in commercial sex will take place at non-commercial residences. To break it down, the family will post an advertisement marketing sex for sale with the victim. A perpetrator will see the ad, contact the family, and set up a day and time to go to the house to have sex with the victim. The other form of in-house trafficking is by digital pornography. This includes pre-recorded sexual images and videos, often recorded inside their own home. This material is displayed on the internet, exploiting victims without consent and sometimes without their knowledge. A real-world example of the media framing human trafficking is the Wayfair rumors that spread throughout the summer of 2020. They first began on a Reddit post that quickly blew up on all forms of social media. The story was that these ridiculously high-priced pillows and cabinets were a front for child trafficking. These simple, standard items were priced between $10,000 and $20,000. This is an example of how willingly people are to believe what is read on the media without verifying or legitimatizing the sources they came from. While solutions to rescuing victims of trafficking are limited, there's a unique tactic that was discovered by researchers Laura Lederer and Christopher Wetzel. It was discovered that 88% of child trafficking survivors came into contact with a healthcare professional, most often in the emergency department. Given this knowledge, emergency room workers have a rare opportunity to intercede. Healthcare professionals are given the uncommon chance of treating and talking to a child completely alone, which is an advantage because it will not immediately alert the trafficker. Through asking indirect and medical-based questions and using trauma-informed techniques, healthcare professionals can form an environment where the victims feel as if they can disclose information that may lead to answers. As foreign as human trafficking sounds to those who have never been affected by it or have not been educated on it, it's happening in many parts of the world, with the United States being one of the largest hotspots. The media has created a facade that underwhelms and subdues the severity of the issue. Humans are being trafficked not only by strangers, but also by familiar faces, including family members, boyfriends, coaches, and anyone else in the victim's circle of trust. While some may be relocated, people can be trafficked without ever leaving the familiarity of their own home. Victims, who will often grow up to live a life of prostitution, are trapped and enslaved, trying to survive without a choice or voice because of their perpetrator. Healthcare workers do have the unique power and resources to help end the corrupt cycle that so many are going through. By educating ourselves and raising awareness on the matter, we can one day end the exploitation of human beings for the lust of a stranger and the greed of a perpetrator. Thank you.